Dr. Jerome Corsi received a PhD from Harvard University in political science in 1972. He's a friend, but he's also the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Abomination, Leftist Politics and the Cult for Personality, and the co-author of Unfit for Command, Swift Boat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry, which also was a #1 New York Times bestseller. He has a startling new book out, written by medical expert Dr. David Mantik with him, and the title is The Assassination of President John F. Kennedy, The Final Analysis. Dr. Corsi, welcome to the Economic War Room.
Kevin, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
You know, this book that you've got now, it's a departure from, you've done work on elections. You've been targeted by the deep state with Roger Stone and all of the work that you did there, and it completely exonerated, by the way. You've worked on economics, you've worked on climate change, so many things. I mean, you're a great writer, you are a great researcher, but this one, you pulled me aside and said, this is startling new information. Can you explain what you found?
Well, I'm working with David Mantik, who is both a PhD in physics and an MD. He's a radiation oncologist. For over 40 years, he's been reading x-rays for cancer patients. Dr. Mantik got the opportunity to see the JFK skull x-rays from the autopsy. There's 3 of them in the National Archives. He's seen them more than anyone else, and he did optical density measurements on these x-rays. That means he took in an instrument, a scientific instrument, a densitometer. It casts a beam of light through the x-ray with an arm that measures how much light's coming through. It permits you to, on a logarithmic scale, know exactly what you're looking at. Now, we kept the science in the appendices, so let me explain the conclusions here.
Yes.
Dr. Mantik found that all 3 of the existing x-rays are not the originals, but they have been altered. They have been forged to mask evidence of frontal shots.
Okay, let's stop a second. The science, #1, and the science is absolute from what I'm hearing you tell me. There's no question they were doctored. This is evidence in probably the greatest criminal conspiracy of the last 50 years, however many years it is, 61 years.
61.
And yet no one, it's been covered up, and it looks like it's been covered up by our own government. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, that's exactly what. Dr. Mantik has been publishing these results, and they are scientific, and they've been confirmed by now 2 other noted radiologists. He's been publishing for 30 years, these results. They're widely known in the Kennedy research community, but Dr. Mantik publishes very technically in medicine and in science. And so I teamed up with him to make his findings understandable to the average reader. You don't have to know the science. Put the science in appendices if you want to see it, but everything is explained. The book is it's a very thick book. This is the book here, 560 pages, very, very thoroughly illustrated all the way through. We tell you what we're looking at. You can see exactly what we're talking about. Now, so the first conclusion is all 3 x-rays have been altered. They're duplicates. They're faked.
Okay.
They are JFK. They are JFK skull x-rays because the teeth match a pre-mortem skull x-ray that JFK had done and is in the JFK Museum up in Boston. And the second conclusion is you can see evidence in the x-rays, clear evidence of 2 frontal shots and 1 shot from the rear, no shots from the Texas School Book Depository, 6th floor. No shot hit JFK's head that was fired from that location. All the angles are wrong, and this is, again, scientific measurement of everything you're looking at within these x-rays.
Now, you didn't set out to find a conspiracy of something that happened I was 2 years old when this happened. And most people, it's like, yeah, Kennedy was killed. We know who did it, and we know why they did it, and so forth. But it's been a long-studied thing. For my entire lifetime, people have said, well, there were 2 shooters. There's a grassy knoll. There's all this. What you've just said is conclusively based on science. It is provable that the x-rays were doctored. Why would somebody do that, and why should we care?
Well, they did this in order to hide what was a coup d'etat, a government assassination, with a cover story that was a lie, that Lee Harvey Oswald was the assassin. And I want to explain, Kevin, the shots that you can see in the x-rays One shot hit JFK in the right temple, just at the hairline, and you can actually see the entry point in the forehead, and you can see the trail of the bullet through the top right quadrant of JFK's head. The bullet breaks up. The largest fragment is in the back. That's the way a bullet travels when it breaks up, because the largest fragment is the heaviest, it has the most momentum. It will end up at the end point. And it did not exit. That's clearly, unmistakably a frontal shot. There's no doubt about that. A second shot entered the temporal bone right here by the right ear, and it blew out the back of the head. And again, at Parkland Hospital, that's what it was seen, a blowout of the back of the head. And the third shot hit it at a low angle at the back of the head, right at the knob in the back of the head. That blew out a lot of the material on the side of the Kennedy's head up here. That happened at frame 313 in the Zapruder film. You can see Kennedy's head. There's a spray of, his head moves forward, and there's a spray of brain matter that goes up. Within 2 seconds, this shot hits, and he's thrown violently back into the left. That's the back into the left. And this is clear. The evidence is unmistakable in the x-rays, because you can see the entry point of this bullet. You can see the track of the broken up bullet across the top of the head. And all of the optical density measurements, which were made millimeter by millimeter, Dr. Mantik has fully validated. Michael Chesser, subsequently saw the JFK x-rays. He conducted his own optical density measurements. He confirmed Dr. Mantik's results. And just recently, another radiologist, Dr. Fogarty, Bobby Kennedy is asked to see the book. I've been in touch with Bobby Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. He asked me to get him a copy of the book. I mailed him a copy of the book. Dr. Fogarty, who was one of the people associated with his team, last 2 weeks, he has validated that the book is correct. A third radiologist, one affiliated with Bobby Kennedy's campaign.
Now, it's been out, the book has been out a little over a month. Has anybody said, no, that's not true? There's proof, we can prove it wrong. Has anybody come forward and denied the facts that are in the book? Or are they just ignoring it?
They're ignoring it. No one has denied it. No one's argued with it. It's been ignored.
Have you opened a challenge for people to come and...
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who can refute this evidence, come forward, please. But again, it's been validated by radiologists who are quite independent. I mean, I recently just told Dr. Fogarty, here's all the data, here's the photographs, here's the book. Come to your own judgment. And he agreed that this book is 100% accurate. It's fully validated. I mean, there are shocking things in this book. The problem with the assassination was at Parkland Hospital, the doctors realized Jack Kennedy was shot from the front. But the photographs taken, including Altgen's AP photograph, had a picture with the shot that came through the window. Jack Kennedy's reacting to it. The Texas School Book Depository is in the background. So now you've got shots, the body showing from the front, but if Oswald was the assassin, all the shots had to come from behind. So they actually got the body, Jack Kennedy's body, to Bethesda Naval Hospital early at 6:30. It arrived in a steel casket and a body bag. His body was naked. That's not how it left Parkland. And it's fully validated. The doctors at Bethesda who did the autopsy did pre-autopsy surgery, and they massively tried to alter the wounds to make Jack Kennedy look like he was shot from the back. That was validated by 2 FBI officers who attended the official autopsy at 8 o'clock that said there was pre-autopsy surgery done to Kennedy's head. This book is ironclad. There were at least 3 shooters who shot at Jack Kennedy, one on the grassy knoll, one on the other side up by the railroad bridge over the triple underpass, and one the Daltex building behind Jack Kennedy. No shots hit Jack Kennedy's head from the 6th floor window of the Texas School Book Depository. Lee Harvey Oswald probably didn't fire a shot that day. It's been a government lie for 60 years. It was a coup d'etat.
Well, now, given that, everything that you just said, you would think that this type of massive conspiracy with all these people that had to know and be involved and hush up, you think someone would at some point come forward. Have has anyone come forward that's a part of that and said, oh yeah, they've done, I mean, you mentioned the surgery. Anyone else?
Yes, many people have come forward, and it's in the public record. The doctors at Parkland have said they were pressured, and the book documents the pressure put by the government on the doctors at Parkland to change their story or lose their medical licenses to practice. They've come forward and said the shots were frontal shots. A number of people, including the corpsmen who were at the pre-autopsy surgery, have now given sworn testimony. One of the morticians who attended the pre-autopsy surgery at Bethesda Naval Base, he was there to prepare Jack Kennedy's body to go back to the White House. He gave sworn testimony that there was pre-autopsy surgery. We have the photographs of Kennedy's head after the pre-autopsy surgery, and it's obvious that the entire top of his head had been removed by a saw, the parietal bone, and the doctors had searched, obviously, for evidence of lead that they removed. They could not remove this frontal shot for the forehead because it was most likely a mercury liquid shot, and it couldn't be removed. That one remains. Okay, so all of that, so we've got everything that you just said. What do we learn from that? What's the application for people today? Because so many people watching the show weren't even alive when Kennedy was shot. It's like Garfield or something. It was a president so far in the past. What do we learn from it? That the government killed Jack Kennedy because he didn't want to go to war. He didn't want to go to war in the Cuban Missile Crisis. He had signed a memorandum, national security memorandum, to pull out of Vietnam. The military wanted to go to Vietnam. The doctors at the hospital, at the autopsy, there were generals who were giving orders to the doctors. This was a lying government narrative. The government organized the shooting of Jack Kennedy, the CIA, the military-industrial complex. They organized the cover-up. They had problems because the body evidence was of frontal shots. They had to alter the body. They doctored the x-rays, and they hid the shots that are frontal shots, but you can't erase the frontal shot evidence that is in the x-rays. You can't change the fact that the x-rays are proved to be duplicates and forged. These are hard facts, and they've been scrutinized now for 30 years. This book just makes Dr. Mantik's research accessible to the public. The government lies. The government continues to lie. A lot of questions. Why were airplanes, why were buildings in 9/11 that weren't hit by airplanes, why did they fall down? Why do we have a vaccine in the pandemic? Well, people still get the disease. How many times does the government lie? How many narratives does the government create in order to manipulate us to lose our freedoms? The government can kill a president and get away with it for 60 years. We have an explanation that this deep state is running the government with the president, Joe Biden, that the special prosecutor declares is suffering so much mental dementia that he cannot be indicted. That's the perfect type of president for a deep state in the shadows that wants to run the government, the CIA and the military-industrial complex, with the press being paid to be their spokespersons. This came into the public, started in the open, November 22nd, 1963, when Jack Kennedy was killed. And today, that deep state is increasingly taking power and trying to create a tyrannical government under which we're going to be living under, should we not be able to stop them. This is anti-God, anti-Jesus Christ, and these people are satanic.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a fascinating book. I think it's something that people should read so they can get, not only the history, but the science is fascinating. And then the notion of the whole deep state, as you've described, which was called by Eisenhower just before Kennedy, beware the military-industrial complex and the scientists that would take control of everything. So thank you, Dr. Corsi, for sharing this incredible information with us.
Thank you, Kevin. My great honor and pleasure to be with you today.
What's the best way to get a copy of this book?
On Amazon. It's going into the bookstores now. There's some in Target and various places, retail. On Amazon, you can get a hard cover, you can get a paperback, you can get the electronic book.
That's great.
We don't have yet the audio book, but we're working on getting that in production. Amazon.com is the best place to get it right now.
Thank you, Dr. Corsi. All right, so what we're facing is same thing. Nothing new under the sun. Does the government lie to us? Yes. There's no question. It's been documented over and over and over. Did they lie to us about the Kennedy assassination? Well, you need to read this book. Dr. Corsi and Dr. Mantik have written. Decide for yourself, and then stop and evaluate these statements that you hear, and you'll hear them, about COVID and everything else. Evaluate them in comparison to the science. That's why we bring you great minds like Dr. Peter McCullough and others who say, hey, the government said this, but this turns out to be the truth. Get a copy of this book and decide for yourself. Remember, what we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.